Hi, welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm pleased to be joined by Hamilton star Renee Elise Goldsberry, a Tony and Grammy winner, and a newly minted primetime Emmy nominee for Hamilton the movie, which is streaming right now on Disney Plus. Renee, I wanted to start there. Congratulations on the nomination. Can you tell me, how did you find out, and what was your immediate reaction to becoming an Emmy nominee this year?
Oh gosh, it was such a great feeling. I kept telling myself, "Oh, it's no big deal. It's no big deal. It's no big deal." And I realized how much of a deal it was for me when I didn't think I got one because they don't announce this particular category on television. And so I everybody kept saying, "Oh, you didn't get one," because I did Girls Five Eva this year, and there was some hope that we would be recognized this year. We were in the writing category, which is wonderful, but I did not get a nomination for that. So I just thought, maybe next year. And then finally, I started getting some phone calls from people that actually went online and discovered that Hamilton got these nominations. It was such a joy. I was so excited, and I'm still just spinning.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about Girls Five Eva also, because I love you on that show. It was so funny, and I was really hoping you would actually get nominated for that as well. But for Hamilton, like you said, or the movie was shot, I think, literally like 5 years ago last month. You capturing the
Was it 5? Oh
yeah,
my
2016.
gosh.
Yeah, capturing the original cast on Broadway. I don't know how much you've gotten to see the movie or whatever, but when you think about, I don't know, when you look back at your performance in that show that's in the movie, or the two shows, or that is in the movie, I mean, what stands out to you now with like 5 years of distance, I guess?
I think the beauty of art is its relevance as time goes by. I mean, that's one thing that makes Hamilton enjoyable in a new way. We got a lot of accolades in the beginning, and people were my gosh, we were being compared to Chorus Line and all of these wonderful, wonderful musicals. West Side Story. We were being compared to major works of art. Lynn was being compared to Shakespeare before we had even opened at the Public Theater, which is, a huge honor and also very daunting. So, the more that time passes to see the relevance of the work and to learn, it's a progressive revelation to learn, what features of the story still apply and are so necessary as, a new administration comes, and then another new administration comes. And we did not see a global pandemic coming. We had a Black Lives Matter issue that endures, unfortunately. And there's just messages there that are timely always. And so I think it just really shows the significance of a piece of art, that it continues to matter, and it continues to inform us. And then there's just the fact that it came on television this year. I mean, this Emmy season. And I think when it comes to celebrating or acknowledging something, it's not just about when it was shot or when the piece was written, any of those things. The idea that they put it on television during that summer, that very unique, very signature summer, and what television had the opportunity to give us because of that decision, is why I think it's so important and so wonderful that they chose to honor us by giving us these nominations.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it definitely, and especially last year, like you said, debuting, it was July of last year. So right as we're having Black Lives Matter protests around the country, and obviously in the middle of a pandemic, I think it was really incredible to watch Hamilton from your home, in that circumstance. I do think you're right. It definitely hits differently as in different eras. And that's interesting to think about. I mean, who knows what on earth will happen in the next 5 years or whatever, but that it'll still be there for people to watch and experience is really amazing, especially I know you've done obviously a lot of stage work. That's obviously very unique for a production to have that kind of be captured like that is just not normal. So I think that's really fascinating too about it.
And for television to be able to give us theater in a time where theater was dark and has been dark. I mean, we're just coming back, we hope, for television to be able to give us theater, I think is just remarkable. And I'm just so grateful that they've chosen to celebrate that.
Yeah. So you for people who don't know, though, I can't imagine somebody's not watched it or listened to the soundtrack. You play Angelica Schuyler in Hamilton, who is sister to Eliza Schuyler, who marries Alexander Hamilton. It's a great role. I would love to know, and you originated it obviously like before it even went to Broadway. Can you tell me, like, for you personally, like how have your thoughts evolved on Angelica, or how do you think about her as like as a human being, and also like as a character that you played, I guess, in the 5 years since, whatever, since it was on, since you were on doing it on Broadway?
The beauty of watching it on television is it gives you an opportunity to be outside of yourself when it comes to kind of judging a performance, or really experiencing, the totality of the work. That's an experience you really don't get when you're doing theater, that you get in television, that you get in film, that that this being on Disney Plus gives me. And that's the opportunity to really learn more about who she was, as I see her on the broader landscape. And that's been really just kind of mind-blowing for me, to be able to see what happens, how that performance, how any of those performances, when you include, coverage, when you include just, all of the work that they did in post to transfer that work onto this medium. It's really, really remarkable. And to see that the actual performance, and the things that I felt in those moments, I think theater feels so in the moment. And to know that the visceral, emotional impact of being on that space, being on that stage, being in front of that audience, and experiencing the love of your sister, the love of this man, the choice to give him up because you believe that it's the right thing to do for your sister, the challenge of being an intelligent woman at that time, a foremother of our country, and being relegated to the role of advisor to men that get to lead. I mean, there are so many women issues and women, things to celebrate about women in that role. And I was grateful to have the opportunity of that performance to do it.
Yeah, you mentioned all of that, and I think that is obviously like very apparent in Satisfied, which again is like, I can't imagine people haven't heard it, but it's like your showcase number. I watched it this afternoon before we chatted, and I was like, it's just so emotional. I just find it really emotional. It's a great song, obviously, and it's like a total banger, but also it's like so emotional, and like like you said, like kind of like the sacrifice that Angelica is making there, like kind of like knowing that she loves Alexander, but like would never betray her own family, and knowing how she is supposed to fit into her family, and like kind of like she says, like, like be the upwardly mobile one or whatever. I just love that performance so much. It's incredible. Can you talk a little about like the first time you heard the song, and like, how you felt like having to get all that emotion and like nuance of character while also like nailing obviously like the very quick rap and like the musical of it. It's an incredible blend of like performance of, acting and performance, a live performance. I just find it fascinating.
Thank you so much. The first time I heard the song was a demo of it that Lin-Manuel Miranda sang on, probably in some spare room in his apartment. And it really was the thing that spun my head around. I was really, kind of doing some other things personally in my life at the moment, and didn't think about going out for the role because I just didn't think they would cast me in it. It just felt like, it just felt sexier, quite honestly, than I felt at the moment. And but I heard in that song, I hadn't seen anything else, I hadn't read anything else, I knew nothing else, but I heard in that song such a brilliantly perfect dramatic moment. The fact that so much of a character's journey could happen in one song, and it's brilliant. And it was, it is, the song itself is, I think, challenging, technically perhaps, but what was the most challenging for me when I was learning to do it was the emotional journey, was the ability to be able to make those choices along the way and still be able to breathe. I think people think that the speed with which I rap is the trick. And for me, the trick was to emotionally go through all of the beats that are there and present in that moment and still be able to breathe.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, like I said, it's incredible. It's just an incredible performance and song. You mentioned like before you were talking about getting to watch this on Disney Plus stuff. Do you like to watch your performances, or like how do you feel about that as an actress? Do you actually go back and look at yourself? Because I know some performers don't like watching themselves, and obviously, like we said, like this is the first time you obviously were able to watch yourself in Hamilton, because you're not able to do that when you're performing in a live show. But I was curious about that. Like, do you enjoy that at all?
People ask me all the time, what's my favorite medium? Theater, television, film. And I often would say that I love them all. There's something about the magic of theater that's only there. There's something about the challenge of it that's very specific. I used to think that the only thing that wasn't amazing about it was that the performance was gone. If you missed it, it was gone. And the beauty of Hamilton being on Disney Plus is that, and the ability to start filming theatrical works in a way that you could share them on television. Kind of make it this perfect thing for me. And I used to say that because other people would get to see the performance. What's really true, I'm discovering, is there's also a huge gift in us getting to see the performance. When you think about being in a television show, you don't get to see the work when you're filming it. You don't get to see the work that people are doing that are not in your scenes. You don't really get to respect so much of the artistic work that's happening on everybody's level unless you get to watch it on television. And that's the same way it used to be in the theater before they figured out a way to really capture that magic and put it on television. I am like every other actor in that it is very painful to watch myself. It is the scariest thing in the world to watch myself. But I do because it's not about me most of the time. If anything is brilliant that I'm doing, there's a lot of people to thank for that. There's a lot of great direction. There's a lot of great sound design. There's a lot of great lighting. There are all the actors. When you speak of Satisfied in Hamilton, that entire company is on stage making that number happen, literally rewinding the entire stage. There are so many brilliant performances to see around you that to miss it would just be criminal. And then I love to watch because there's always something to learn about watching my performance. There's always something for me to see and just to learn, what, I believed that could have been better. Oh, wow, that was good. I watch so that I can get better next time.
That's great. Yeah, I was going to ask if that's something you do. It's interesting. It's nice to hear that you do think of it that way as well. Yeah. You mentioned at the top of this interview, we talked a little about Girls Five Eva. I was a huge fan of the show. It obviously, like you said, an Emmy nominee in writing, which maybe portends well for season 2 to be more recognized. I think like some shows had gone that route. Like I think Pen 15 had maybe done that as well. Can you talk a little, like, for season 2, I guess, of Girls Five Eva, no spoilers or anything, but like, what are you hoping for Wiki as the show, evolves? I thought, your performance was really, I think, struck a chord with people, and certainly people online who watched it were very excited about it. Can you talk a little about like where you see the show going?
What's so funny? I cannot wait to get back into Wiki's wigs. I can't wait to get back into her clothes. I can't wait to have those brilliant words from Meredith Scardino back in my mouth. And most importantly, I cannot wait to play with those women, Sarah Bareilles, Paula Pell, Busy Phillips, and whatever other brilliant actor they're going to bring on board. I cannot wait, and I have no idea what they're going to dream up, because I didn't, every episode from 1 to 8, I had no idea where we were going. I've thought a lot about what we could do next. And I just don't know what it is, but baked into the formula, it feels so good. I'm confident that we will continue what I felt like was so much love for the first season of our show. I feel really, really good about it. I feel like I know those women so well. And I feel like there's so much room for them to grow in terms of a deepening of their relationship and the absurdity, the absurdity that they get themselves into. They haven't made it yet.
No, the thing you mentioned there, though, I think is interesting is that, I mean, I think the reason, speaking from my own personal viewing, the reason I really love the show is the chemistry between you four is incredible. Like, I think you and Sarah and Paula and Busy work so well together and work so well. The comedy styles really mesh really well. Can you talk a little, like, I don't imagine, did you know, like, I can't imagine you were all very close beforehand. Maybe you knew each other a little, but like, can you talk about how you guys were able to kind of create that vibe of togetherness and like it just works so well?
Well, thank you. I was a huge fan of Sarah Bareilles. I mean, I've been copying every lick she sang since she started singing. And I'm a huge fan of Waitress. I'm a huge fan of Busy Phillips. Literally her entire life and platform is like a beacon of light in the world that has really guided me. Paula Pella is probably maybe the funniest human being I've ever met in my life. And that doesn't even hold a candle to how beautiful her spirit is. And we've worked together. I was in her movie Sisters and cut out of it. With Tina Fey and Amy Poehler. I never let them forget it. And Paula Pell and I did co-op the musical together. I don't know if you saw that wonderful little comedy gem documentary now. But yeah, so I had the pleasure of working with Paula, but one show, one season is just not enough. And I have to add, they're all really wonderful women, and and any time we could have worked together, we would have fallen in love together. But the other element is COVID and how much of a blessing it was to be able to create together, create anything outside of our house with other people. I mean, everybody that came to that set, I think probably everybody that went to a set anywhere over this last, Emmy season knew what a gift it was, how desperately we needed each other, and how blessed we were to be able to continue to do what we do, and how much the world needed us to create something. I think that's a really big thing. I mean, so many things seem like vanity projects. I think in the season of COVID, it became very clear that people needed to see women, reinventing themselves, right? They needed to see people that were perhaps, you would think, had passed that season of their life dreaming, and having to account for some previous mistakes, and really being there, recognizing that I can't fulfill this dream without you, sister. These are, and then just laughing and being ridiculous. These are things that we desperately needed. We probably always needed them, but we knew when we were shooting how important it was when we were, in trailers like the one I'm in, watching, the takeover of the Capitol. This was the backdrop of us shooting the show. And so I think somehow or another that's in there when you look at us loving each other and clinging to each other. We needed each other.
Yeah, and I would say too, like, I think obviously, like you said, like you shot it during the pandemic. Watching it, you can't even, like, I think it's a testament to the production as well. You really can't even tell that it was like any way compromised or anything by like the outside world. Like it didn't even dawn on me until like maybe halfway through the scene. It's like, oh, this obviously shot during the pandemic because of like where just like what's going on. Obviously it was. So yeah, no, it really is a fun show. And
there was a lot of COVID testing going on at all times. Sure. And there was not a lot of, hanging out, we couldn't even take our masks off unless it was we did rehearsals with our masks on. We were very careful. This was before the vaccine, and it's we were grateful that we were able to do it.
Yeah. Well, Renee Elise Goldsberry, thank you so much for doing this. Hamilton star. It's on Disney Plus right now. She's an Emmy nominee in the Best Supporting Actress in a Limited Series, Anthology Series, or TV Movie category this year. Thank you so much, Renee. I appreciate it.
You saying that made me just sit up taller. Thank you so much. It's an honor to talk to you about a nomination for an Emmy. Woo!